Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. I brought some Jagannath prasadam from Trier. Homemade prasadam offered to Lord Jagannath, so those who tolerate the whole class, then by the end you get the reward. This is my way to keep you in the room. This is the, if you can believe Shastra, this is the most powerful and auspicious activity that we can perform, is to hear and chant, which are the first two processes within the Navalaksha Bhakti Yoga processes. Prabhupada says everything starts from hearing, Shravana, which is also, this good news for everyone, you can write it on your seva sheet. Shravanam is also seva. Sometimes you think you have to run around. I remember my spiritual master, I think I already told that one time. I think it's interesting to hear it again. He says, Bhakti Yoga means devotional service, and in devotional service within our movement, it's hard work. There are always so many things to do in our ISKCON movement, right? You agree? Yes. Those who are responsible for certain departments, they feel they are gap managers. You know? Abhimanyu, you agree? Gap managers. So many gaps to fill up, and then we have to find devotees to engage in devotional service. So my spiritual master, he said, it's very difficult to run around the whole day, work very hard for Krishna. And he repeated that 3 times, and he's always very thoughtful, and then he shakes his head. Very, very difficult. Always so busy for Krishna. It's not easy. And then he paused and he said, but it is more difficult to sit down for Krishna. To just sit, chant and hear and pray, right? It's more difficult. It's easier to just be active because you feel so useful. No, Vasudhama Prabhu is already in the stage, you know, to sit. But for those who have more passion in the body, it's more easy to do things, and you see the results and you think, wow, I did something tangible for Krishna. Just sitting down and listening doesn't strike off your list of to-dos. If you are a person like me, I have an Excel sheet, my wife knows very well. My Excel sheet is full of to-dos, and then I prioritize with priority 1, 2, 3, and every day I readjust the priorities. But sometimes we forget to put in priority 1, to sit down for Krishna and just hear and chant. Satam prasangam mama veya samvidu bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata. It's the beginning of spiritual life. It's to sit down together with other devotees. Satam prasangam. We sit down, this is what it means. Satam prasangam means you sit down with other devotees. And then what will we do? Mama veya samvidu. Then Krishna says, you glorify me. All the devotees gather, and then what do? Mama Vyeya, they discuss my opulences, my prowess, my beauty, my strength, my glorious activities. Give it to me, Krishna says. Glorify me, together with other devotees. Satam prasangam mama Vyeya samvido. Bhavanti rit karana rasayana kata. If you tell this to an outsider, that there isn't a person who demands his followers to sit down and glorify him, it sounds like, wow, that's intense. No? If I would say that, you all sit down and you glorify me. It's like, what? Who is this guy, you know? So when you tell it to an outsider, it's like difficult to explain it. You sit down and you glorify Krishna, who speaks Bhagavad Gita. But it says that it's very, very satisfying. It's rasayana, it's full of rasa, this kata, rasayana kata. There are two elements for which it's very satisfying. What is Kapila Muni saying? Tat joshnat asva. It's very satisfying. For what? For the ears and for the heart. It's very cooling for the heart to hear about the glories of Krishna. And if you've experienced that satisfaction in hearing about Krishna, then appavarga, you're liberated. So this is actually our aim of life. We always say, prema pumarto maham. Prema is the ultimate goal of life. You agree? Prema is the ultimate goal of life. If we read from the Acharyas, what is prema, we lose all hope. So therefore we should downgrade our goal to a more feasible goal, which is ruchi, to at least develop some taste for the process of devotional service. Is that achievable? Can we attain ruchi? You think it's easy? No, not easy? Ruchi? Actually, ruchi is up to Krishna. So therefore, personally, I always think about the process from kama to nishta, instead of from shraddha to prema. From lust to steadiness. And there are 4 or 5 stages in between, including engaged in sadhusanga, engaged in associating with the devotees. Because Vaishnava Seva, Nama Ruchi. If you serve Vaishnava, then you will develop taste for the process of devotional service. So this is Satam Prasangam verse, so nice. When we sit down in the association of devotees, we hear about Krishna, it becomes very satisfying. When it's satisfying, we are actually in the liberated stage. And then Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, Anu, Kramishyati. Krama means step by step. So from Shraddha to Rati, it's quite a big step, From Shraddha to Rati to Bhakti. Rati means strong attraction, like the attraction between a boy and a girl. Very natural. So when our attraction becomes natural, we are in Rati. And then, after that, comes the stage of Bhakti. So if you say, I'm a Bhakti yogi, well, maybe we are an aspiring Bhakti yogi, right? Whoa, Hare Krishna. Very loud, huh? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayara Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnu Papa Mahamsa Parivrajakarya Astotra Satasri Sima His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Garantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
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 Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. So today we continue to read from the Sri Chaitanya Charita Amrita. Charita means characteristics, pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which are Amrita. Therefore we say Sri, the holy, Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya's Charita Amrita, the nectar of Lord Chaitanya's characteristics, pastimes, activities. By Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who heard so many things from Raghunath Das Goswami, who was under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was one of the two closest associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he has directly heard about these nectarian pastimes of the Lord, and to a certain extent Raghunath Das Goswami had some experiences with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's a combination of his own anubhav, his own experiences, and what he has heard from Swarup Damodar Goswami. So when Raghunath Das Goswami felt too much separation from Lord Chaitanya and from the other Goswamis, then, he went to Sri Vrindavan Dham, actually with the purpose of committing suicide, because he was hopeless and helpless and without shelter. But then, the residents of Vrindavan, they convinced him that he should go to Radhakund and have every day 3 hours of Chaitanya Katha. And by having this Chaitanya Katha, Raghunath Das Goswami, he could actually feel the connection with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. So he was preaching for 3 hours per day, and whatever he was saying, there was one devotee in the audience who was having his notebook, and he would write down everything very nicely. Oh yeah, that's very nice, that's a good point. And he would, later on, this was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he would write, also on the request of the other Vaishnavas, he would write the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is how this Chaitanya Charitamrita came about, and by the mercy of our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada, we are now having the great fortune to hear this Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we should not take it for granted. There is a whole parampara in between, and that's why a parampara is called a sampradaya. Daya means mercy, and pra means to give, and sam means complete. So it's the chain of complete mercy that's coming down from these spiritual masters, from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from the 6 Goswamis, from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who commented on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then our dear Srila Prabhupada, who did a marathon of translating, commenting upon, and having the 17 volumes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita published in a very short time. Anyone remembers how much it took? 3 months. 3 months to translate, comment, publish, have them ready. 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a miracle. This can only be done if you receive the complete mercy of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada, he was so empowered. And when he actually mentioned that I want the Chaitanya Charitamrita published in full in 3 months, then all the devotees, they were thinking, this man is losing it. Now he goes too far. But they did it. It's just incredible. I think all the devotees were requested, all the artists and editors, they were all requested to go to Los Angeles and to also assemble there and have a marathon, and everything was centered. So it was an amazing yagya. And now there are some plans to have the Chaitanya Charitamrita translated in Dutch. His Grace Jayakopal Prabhu is the soul of that project. So we are figuring out how it can be manifested, but that is the goal, to also have the Chaitanya Charitamrita completely translated and published in
3 months.
In Dutch. 3 months? I can text Jayakopal Prabhu. What do you think, Prabhu? 3 months? Okay.
I just have one question. Krishnadas Kaviraj. Kaviraj, didn't that mean doctor?
Well, it's the title that was given to physicians because they were also very learned. Raj means king and Kavi means a poet or a thoughtful person. So he's the one who is the king of all thoughtful persons. He is a Kaviraj. But doctors were considered to be very learned on the bodily platform. So therefore they were also given the title of Kaviraj. But Krishnadas, he's also a doctor. Krishnadas Kaviraj is curing us. We are the patients. If we are patiently hearing, then we are the patients. I don't know if there is a connection. Sorry, I'm speculating. So we continue to read. Actually, we will read the verse on the board is 96, and there is an extensive purport there. So let's start asking the blessings of Mahendra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Asraya janite kahi enava padartha, enavera utpati hetu se asrayartha. To know distinctly the ultimate shelter of everything that be, I have described the other 9 categories. The cause for the appearance of these 9 is rightly called their shelter. We will explain a little bit about this later on. Krishna eka savasraya, Krishna savadam, Krishnera sarire sarve vishvira vishram. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the shelter and abode of everything. All the universes rest in his body. Just try to visualize what we are reading. All the universes rest in his body. Text 95. Dasame dasamam laksham asritasraya vigram Shri Krishna kyam param dhama jagadhama namami tat. The 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam reveals the 10th object, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of all surrendered souls. He is known as Sri Krishna, and he is the ultimate source of all the universes. Let me offer my humble obeisance unto him. Purport. This quotation comes from Sridhar Swami's commentary on the first verse of the 10th canto, chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then text 96, please repeat. Krishnera Swarupa Ara Sakti Traya Gyan. Krishnera Swarupa Ar Sakti Traya Gyan. Yanra Hoy Tandra Nahi Krishnete Agyan. Yanra Hoy Tandra Nahi Krishnete Agyan. Krishnera Swarupa Ar Sakti Traya Gyan. Yanra Hoy Tandra Nahi Krishnete Agyan.
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnete Ajnana
Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Krishna, please. Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana Yandrahaya Tandranahi Krishnete Ajnana
Krishna Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Jnana Janrahaya Tandranahi Krishnite Ajnana
Word by word translation. Krishna of Lord Krishna. Swarupa, the real nature. Ara, and Shakti Trai, of the three energies. Jnana, knowledge. Yandra, whose. Haya, there is. Tanra, of him. Nahi, there is not. Krishnete, in Lord Krishna. Ajnana, ignorance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Srila Jiva Goswami states in his Bhagavad Sandarbha 16 that by his potencies, which act in natural sequence beyond the scope of the speculative human mind, the supreme transcendence, the sunnam bonum, eternally and simultaneously exists in four transcendental features: his personality, his impersonal effulgence, particles of his potency, the living beings, and the principal cause of all causes. The supreme whole is compared to the sun, which also exists in four features, namely the personality of the sun god, the glare of his glowing sphere, the sun rays inside the sun planet, and the sun's reflections in many other objects. The ambition to corroborate the existence, please listen carefully because this is a very complicated sentence. The ambition to corroborate the existence of the transcendental absolute truth by limited conjectural endeavors cannot be fulfilled, because he is beyond the scope of our limited speculative minds. So to corroborate means to prove or to confirm. So to confirm the existence of the transcendental absolute truth by limited conjectural endeavors. So what is conjectural? Conjectural is...
It's something you come up with. It may be not true or true.
Yes, it's like a little bit speculative or guessing.
It's a guess. Yeah, that's the
Huh? It's guessing. Conjectural is, it's maybe, perhaps, it could be, that might be, this is conjectural. So we read the sentence again. The ambition to corroborate or to confirm the existence of the transcendental absolute truth by limited conjectural or guessing endeavors cannot be fulfilled, because he is beyond the scope of our limited speculative minds. It's clear, no? It took me a few times to understand this, so don't worry. When you prepare a class, you always know more than the rest because you prepare, right? So, In an honest search for truth, we must admit that his powers are inconceivable to our tiny brains, or as Prabhupada would say, a teeny. You hear him saying it? It's teeny brains. Huh? Just like when we hear this 1-minute lectures of Prabhupada with the kids in the morning, then Prabhupada many times speaks about envy and jealous, you know, the jealous living entities instead of jealous. So it's Prabhupada's specific way of pronouncing.
The of the mother.
Huh?
In the of the mother.
In the of, yeah. The exploration of space has demanded the work of the greatest scientists of the world, yet there are countless problems regarding even fundamental knowledge of the material creation that bewail the scientists who confront them. Such material knowledge is far removed from the spiritual nature, and therefore the acts and arrangements of the Absolute Truth are beyond all doubts inconceivable. Inconceivable. The primary potencies of the Absolute Truth are mentioned to be 3: internal, external, and marginal. By the acts of his internal potency, the personality of Godhead in his original form exhibits the spiritual cosmic manifestations known as the Vaikuntha Lokas, which exist eternally even after destruction of the material cosmic manifestations. By his marginal potency, the Lord expands himself as living beings who are part of him, just as the sun distributes its rays in all directions. By his external potencies, the Lord manifests the material creation, just as the sun with its rays creates fog. So we talk about Krishna's internal potency, the Vaikuntha Lokas. He speaks about the marginal potency, the living entities. And now he speaks about the external potency of the Lord. And it's very interesting. By his external potency, the Lord manifests the material creation just as the sun with its rays creates fog. The material creation is but a perverse reflection of the eternal Vaikuntha nature. These 3 energies of the Absolute Truth are also described in the Vishnu Purana, where it is said that the living being is equal in quality to the internal potency, whereas the external potency is indirectly controlled by the chief cause of all causes. Maya, the illusory energy, misleads a living being as fog misleads a pedestrian by blocking off the light of the sun. Although the potency of Maya is inferior in quality to the marginal potency which consists of the living beings who are part and parcel of the Lord, it nevertheless has the power to control the living being, just as fog can block the actions of a certain portion of the sun's rays, although it cannot cover the sun. Such a beautiful explanation. The living beings covered by the illusory energy evolve in different species of life, with bodies ranging from that of an insignificant ant to that of Brahma, the constructor of the cosmos. The Pradhan, the chief cause of all causes in the impersonal vision, is none other than the Supreme Lord, whom one can see face to face in the internal potency. He takes the material, all-pervasive form by his inconceivable power. Although all 3 potencies, namely internal, external, and marginal, are essentially one in the ultimate issue, they are different in action. Like electric energy, which can produce both cold and heat under different conditions. The external and marginal potencies are so called under various conditions, but in the original internal potencies there are no such conditions, nor is it possible for the conditions of the external potency to exist in the marginal or vice versa. One who is able to understand the intricacies, or another word for intricacy is complexity. The one who is able to understand the intricacies or complexities of all these energies of the Supreme Lord can no longer remain an empiric impersonalist under the influence of a poor fund of knowledge. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamaya Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Siguro Siyuta Padakamalam Sigurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mostute Tatta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaniswari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Hari Hari Panchakalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Padamebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. It's a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, all the verses in the second chapter of this Ādi-līlā are having their foundation in verse 1.3, the first chapter, text number 3, which reads, what the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord, known as the Supersoul, is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences, Sat Asvaya Purna. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. So this is a foundational verse which establishes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is greater, no one is equal to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is similar to Srimad Bhagavatam, where the first verse of Bhagavatam is also establishing the foundation of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam with the verse Janmadhyasya Yataha, where it's established that the Absolute Truth, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of creation, maintenance and destruction. And that even great sages like Lord Brahma, great demigods and sages, that even they are sometimes getting enlightened by that source, by Krishna, and sometimes getting illusioned by the same source. And that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is creating, maintaining and destroying, and who is simultaneously directly and indirectly conscious of all energies, all the time, he is still fully independent and having his own Dhamna Svena Sada. He has his own spiritual abode where he is just enjoying pastimes with his devotees. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is avatari, and Krishna is also avatari. They are the source of all manifestations. And in the different verses of this second chapter, some very important key verses to establish Sambandha, to establish Tattva, are quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. I remember when, after a few years, I finally allowed myself to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then in the beginning, the first chapters, I was scratching my head because I was thinking Chaitanya Charitamrita is the nectar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And then you get so much philosophy. Full with philosophy. This second chapter, which is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also full of verses that establish the absolute truth. In the beginning of this chapter, the verse Vedanti Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sakyate is quoted and explained extensively how the transcendentalists look at the absolute truth in the three different features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. How Krishna is the Supreme Lord, how he's the source of the impersonal Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, Bhagavad Gita says, this effulgence, this Brahma Jyoti is actually resting on me. I'm the source of the Brahma Jyoti. And also Paramatma feature. Krishna is the source of the Paramatma feature. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarashtam govindam adipurasham tamaham bhajami. So he's the source of everything, both the Brahma Jyoti, both the material energy, and also the super soul. He is Bhagavan. He is full of all opulences, just like in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sat Asvaya Purna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has 6 opulences. He is the richest, he's the most powerful, he's the most famous, he's the most knowledgeable, he's the most beautiful, he's the most detached. Sat Asvaya Purna. So this Vedanti Tattva Vidas verse explains at length. But then one might think, especially in India, so many persons are called Bhagavan. If you say Bhagavan iti satyate, the absolute truth is also Bhagavan, then we can say Indra Bhagavan or Brahma Bhagavan. And then the Paribhash verse is quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Ete chamsa kalapumsam Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam. It's a very important verse where also many verses are linked to this Paribhash verse, proving that Krishna is not just within the list of the incarnations, but Krishna is the source of this list of all incarnations. He is Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He is the original Bhagavan. So that is explained at length, so that we really understand the position of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all other incarnations, all other amsas and kalas, all other expansions, having their source in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then a third key verse is quoted from the Bhagavatam. And this is, I think, explained last week in the Chaitanya Charitamrita verse. Atra saga visagasya stanam poshanam uttaya mam vantari shanugata nirodo muktir asraya. There it's discussed that there are 10 different subject matters of the Bhagavatam. And 9 are dependent on one. And the one is Ashrita. Ashrita is the ultimate shelter for all living entities. You have creation, you have subcreation, you have maintenance, you have protection of the devotees, you have the appearance of the manus, you have the winding up the material energy, the destruction, you have liberation, you have all these different aspects which are explained in Bhagavatam have their shelter in the Ashrita. Ashrita means the shelter. Bhagavad Gita has quite a few verses where Ashrita is mentioned. Like one of them we probably know, most of us know. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upasritaha. Being freed from attachment, anger and fear, being fully absorbed in me. Manmaya mam upasrita bahavo jnana tapasya. And then Puttamat bhavam agataha. This is a very encouraging verse for us and also a very instructing one. If you can get rid of attachments, anger and fear by taking shelter in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we can follow in the footsteps of many, many souls in the past who, by cultivation of knowledge about Krishna, have developed transcendental love for him. For me, this is a very important verse of the Bhagavad Gita because of two things. One is when you cultivate knowledge about Krishna, then it says, Puttamat bhavam agata. You get purified And you will develop transcendental love for Him. Bhutam bhavam agataha. So that's one aspect. Cultivation of knowledge about Krishna is not just to know Him, but it's to actually get an impetus towards loving devotional service to Krishna. And the second nice thing about this verse is Bahavo. Bahavo means many souls in the past. Okay, it's possible. Many souls in the past became purified by positive cultivation of knowledge about Krishna. And thus they have attained transcendental love for Him. Isn't that wonderful? We are not alone. Many persons in the past cultivated knowledge of Krishna and developed love for Him. Now in this verse, on the board, we read Shakti Traya. After establishing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the shelter of all living entities, now Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami starts speaking about Shakti Traya, 3 main energies of the Lord. And these 3 energies of the Lord are very relevant for us. What are these 3 energies? Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, Tatashta Shakti. So Antaranga Shakti, Antar means internal and Shakti means energy. So here, when we talk about Antaranga Shakti of the Lord, we speak about the realm of transcendence. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that by this Antaranga Shakti, the Lord creates or manifests the Vaikuntha planets, where everything is conscious. Chintamani prakarata satmashu kalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhir abhipalyantam. Every stone is a touchstone. Every tree is a wish-fulfilling tree. Every cow is a surabhi cow which can provide unlimited milk for the satisfaction of Gopal. So the spiritual world is a realm of what terms can be used to describe the Antaranga Shakti, the internal energy of the Lord. What could be nice definitional words to describe Antaranga Shakti? What comes into your mind when you think about Antaranga? Yes, Martina? Satchitananda. Wonderful. Yes, it's the realm of Satchitananda. It's eternal. An eternal manifestation. Vaikuntha is an eternal manifestation. So something that is eternal is also without fear, because it never ends. The bliss never ends. And it's the realm of Chit, fully conscious, no ignorance. And most important, it's the realm of Ananda, a realm of unending bliss. What else comes to mind when we think about Antaranga? Yes? Unlimited. Yes? It's an unlimited world. The bliss can be unlimited. The relationships can be unlimited. What else comes to mind when you think about Antaranga?
Complete satisfaction.
Complete satisfaction, yes. Comes to my mind the peace formula. Bhoktaram yakyatapasham, sarvaloka maheshwaram, suridam sarvabhutanam, yatvamam shantim richati. If we are conscious of the fact that the Lord is the enjoyer, the controller, and the best friend of all living entities, then we attain lasting peace. So that is also, what comes in my mind is harmony. We are harmonious with the Lord. There is no split interest. The desire of the Lord is our desire. We are in complete harmony with the Lord. The Lord is in the center. All living entities are around Him and all focused on the Lord. This is actually very powerful. When we are having a community of love, means Krishna is completely in the center and all the devotees in the community are focused on the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, that's a wonderful energy, a wonderful realm. Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita about this internal energy of Him. And actually it's funny, the Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. So if we go to the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, is verse number 350. And verse 350 is Mahatmanas tu mamparta devim prakritim ashrita. Again, this word ashrita is coming in the very middle of the Bhagavad Gita. So what is a Mahatma? A Mahatma is a person who takes shelter of the Daivi Prakriti. He takes shelter of the internal energy of the Lord. Sat Chit Ananda, fully harmonious. Yeah. No competition. Then we have the Bahiranga Shakti, which is Bahir means external. The external energy of the Lord. So what comes to mind? What is the external energy of the Lord? Also 3. When you think about the external energy of the Lord, it's also split up in 3 energies. Mahendra Prabhu?
Temporary.
It's temporary. Yes, it's unconscious, ignorant, and Nirananda, full of misery. Right? Mamupecha punarjanma dukkhalayam asasvatam. It's temporary and it's full of suffering. But it's also split in 3 other energies, this Bahiranga. The 3 gunas. Ignorance, passion, and goodness. And when I think about the external energy of the Lord, I think about competition. We are competing. First of all, we are competing with the Lord. Ishvaroham aham bogi siddhaham balavatsuki. You remember the verse that we quoted? Bhaktaram yakitapasham savaloka maheshwaram. So that is a devotee. He focuses on the Lord as the controller and the enjoyer. When we go to the external energy of the Lord, we think about Ishvara aham. Krishna is not Maheshwar. I am in control of my life. I'm in control of what I'm doing. I'm in control of the results of what I'm doing. Ishvara aham. Aham bogi, which is opposite to Bhaktaram yakyatapasham. Krishna is the enjoyer, but when we are in the external energy of the Lord, then what are we saying? Ishvara aham, I'm the controller. Aham bogi, and I'm the enjoyer. Siddhaham, I'm quite perfect. Currently the Olympic Games are ongoing, which is all about competition. Who's number 1, 2, 3? Who gets gold, silver, bronze? Right? And the funny thing is, you have this verse, Yasjatmi buddhi kunape tridatuke, svadi kalatradishu, bhauma ichadi. Bhauma ichadi means you consider the land of your birth as worshipable. It's very relevant during the Olympic Games. It's amazing how enthusiastic you can be. This body is born in Holland, so now I am feeling the same joy as the person, also whose body is born in Holland, who gets a medal. Yeah, I feel like, and then we sing, "We are the champions." You know? I am not very good in football, but if my team wins, then suddenly I'm the champion. It's amazing. So we have competition with the Lord because we don't recognize that the Lord is the enjoyer and the controller. No, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am Siddha, I'm quite perfect, and aham bogi, I'm so happy. Just watch my Instagram and Facebook pages and you will see I'm extremely happy. With a cocktail under a palm tree at Ibiza, life cannot be better. So all these things are part of the external energy. We have competition with God, we have competition with other living entities, and the 3 modes of material nature have competition with each other. Rajas, tamas, chabibhuya, sattvam, bhavati, bharata. Rajas, sattvam, tamas, cheva. Tamas, sattvam, rajastata. There's a lot of tamas, rajas, and sattvam in this verse. But it's mentioned by Krishna that the 3 modes of material nature, they compete with each other for supremacy. Sometimes you are predominantly in goodness, You think, oh wow, I'm so peaceful and it goes very well, you know. The last 3 days I'm quite peaceful. And then suddenly you're so stressed, so many things in your mind and you're so restless. So yeah, then Rajas is having the gold medal, you know. And then the next day Tamas takes over, you know, running very fast, taking over the Rajas and the Sattva. And then suddenly we sleep very long and we feel tired and uninspired. And isn't it? You have that experience, or am I the only one that's experiencing that? I have that. It's amazing. Competition between the modes, competition between living entities, competition with the Lord. So this is difficult. And then we have the third energy. The third energy, Tatashta. Jivara Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatashta Shakti. Veda Abeda Prakash. We are Tatashta. And this is a very vast topic to discuss, but we touch upon it very briefly. Tatashta means we are in between. It's like being on the beach. Sometimes the beach is part of the water, sometimes the beach is part of the land. Sometimes we're covered by water, sometimes we are not covered by water. So this is our position. I've been meditating on this Tatashta a lot. And if you contemplate on it, most living entities in this material world, they are 100% absorbed in Bahiranga, external energy. I'm this body and I'm going to enjoy it. Right? So they are fully absorbed. I have wonderful colleagues in my team. But it's so embarrassing when you talk about the goal of life, they have no clue. Barbecue is their goal of life, you know? No, but it's a fact. To have a barbecue is like the topmost ecstasy. We're not going into that. It's a very sad story. So, we are in between. So most living entities, they are, in this world, they are fully absorbed in Bahiranga. In one sense, it makes their life also a bit easy, because the goal is very clear, sense gratification. Therefore, we as devotees have to be very careful how we bring Krishna consciousness to those who are in Bahiranga. Because it's folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss. You understand that one? It's folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss. They find you very annoying. You know, if somebody goes to Tomorrowland and had 4 wonderful days and they say, did you ever go to Tomorrowland? And then I say, that's really not my piece of cake at all. And then you know, and they think like, oh, he's a boring guy, you know. He's destroying my happiness. All living entities in the spiritual world are in the Antaranga Shakti, and their goal is also very clear, to give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The problem is with those who are in Tatashta. And actually, practicing devotees, not the completely pure devotees, because pure devotees, they are completely in the internal energy of the Lord. But most of us, sadhakas, we are in the Tatashta Shakti consciously. We are aware of it. And that makes our life sometimes very difficult. What do I mean by that? Theoretically, intellectually, we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We understand that Paramatma is in our heart. We understand that we are part and parcels of Him. We understand that we are in ignorance. So we understand this all with our buddhi, with our intelligence. However, somehow the mind and the senses are leaping behind quite a bit. You know? They don't realize that fully yet. The mind contemplates on the objects of the senses if we don't restrain it. The senses, they are spontaneously attracted to sense gratification. So it's a very difficult situation where we sometimes become split personalities. We know we should be there, and we realize we are there. Or am I again having this experience alone? No? You know what is the absolute goal. You know what we should be doing. We know what we should be thinking. We know what we should be feeling. And the mind and the senses, they have a complete different plan. So what to do? Usually when you're in that stage, you also don't have taste. So if you don't have taste, then what can replace material sense gratification? So therefore, the conclusion is we have to engage our intelligence more and more in understanding the greatness of Krishna. The more we read and study, and that's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spends so much time in Tattva, in Sambandha, really with our buddhi understand the greatness of the Lord and our tiny dependence on this great Lord. In other words, that is what Krishna says in 10.7, Etam vibhutim yogamsya mama yo veti tattvataha sa vikalpena yogena yujyate na atra samsaya. If you fully understand my opulences, then you will surely, undoubtedly engage yourself in devotional service without deviation. So there is a direct link between making Krishna bigger and bigger and greater and more dominant and prominent in our life by hearing about him and actually engaging in devotional service, abhideya. So Sambandha is the source of strong abhideya. So in the beginning stages of our devotional life, we should focus on Aishvaya Gyan. How great is Krishna? How big is Krishna? How small are we? And how much are we dependent on him? So we make Krishna greater, bigger, more and more prominent by hearing about him. One who studies the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, myself, Krishna says, they will worship me by their intelligence. So we have to make our intelligence strong, because the intelligence is higher than the mind, higher than the senses. So without the taste for our devotional practices, we have to rely on a strong buddhi, on a strong a transcendental buddhi. Therefore Bhakti Yoga is also called sometimes Buddhi Yoga, because with the strength of the intelligence, we have to curb the restless mind and the senses. So that is wonderful, to have this trigger that by making Krishna great, the natural tendency is that we surrender to him and engage in devotional service. And there starts another miracle. Because if we engage in Ādi-līlā sunyam, in a process where we don't care anymore about our own desire, but we make Krishna's desire prominent in our life, if we engage in Uttama Bhakti, we do things for Krishna, and what does Krishna want to do for us? He wants to reward us. And then we repeat the prayers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitava, Jagadisa Kamaye, Mama, Janmani, Janmanishvare, Bhavatat Bhaktir, Ahoitaki Tvayi. No, my Lord, I don't want all these rewards. I don't want followers, no riches, no opposite sex, no this, no that. It's no to Krishna. We want to serve Ahoitaki without any motivation, we want to serve you. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he was very upset when Lord Nrsimhadev says, so now you can finally ask blessings. Prahlad Maharaj was angry with the Lord. What? You think I'm a businessman? I do something for you, you do something for me, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. This is not bhakti. So it's no. And at one point, Krishna comes, Salokya Sarsti Samibhya Sarubhyai Kapvamapyuta. I give you the 5 kinds of liberation, my dear devotee. Diyamanan. I will give it to you as a donation. And the devotee says, Na grinanti. No, I don't accept. Vinamat sevanam janaha. Unless it increases my devotional service to you. Otherwise, I don't need liberation. I can serve you here also. So it's no to Krishna. You just want to say yes to service. And then something wonderful happens. When Krishna sees your real devotion, that big Krishna, that Aishvarya, Purna, that Lord with all the opulences, makes himself shrink. He becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Equal level with the devotees. Otherwise, if there is such a big gap between Vibhu and Anu, with the smallest and the biggest, there is no possibility of having real rasa. Rasa, real rasa, is something almost between equals. Not such a big gap between Lord and the living entities, because we are equaling quality. So the Lord shrinks. One wonderful pastime that for me is always amazing is the pastime where Krishna and Balaram enter Mathura and they do a lot of playful things, destroy this and that, and kill the elephant, and then, create quite some turmoil. On the way to the fighting arena, and they are fighting with Chanura and Mustaka. Mustaka is fighting with Balaram, Chanura is fighting with Krishna, and Krishna gives him 3 heavy blows, and then Chanura is giving him 3 blows on the chest, and Krishna doesn't feel anything. And then Krishna, he sees the anxiety in the arena of all the audience, all the people in the audience, all the devotees, because many Brijbasis also traveled with Krishna to see this wonderful feat in the fighting arena. So when Krishna understood that they are in anxiety, then he grabbed the hand of Chanura and he started to centrifuge him. It says that by centrifuging he lost his life. And then everybody was cheering, and Balaram killed Mustika, and then you have Sala, Toshala, 2 other big demons who start to fight with Krishna and Balaram. They were killed. And then Kamsa came, and then Kamsa was quite easily killed. I was always expecting like a momentum, for days and years and kalpas they would fight, but in Krishna book you read it's quite fast. Kamsa is killed quite easily. And then everybody was overjoyed, in ecstasy. And the coward boys, they were so in ecstasy that they jumped over the boundaries into the arena, and they start to embrace Krishna and Balaram, and they start to wrestle. And then they defeated Krishna and Balaram. If you are in the audience and you see how they killed these huge demons, and then the coward boys come to congratulate, and they start to playfully wrestle, and then Krishna's on the floor and Balaram is on the floor. The Gopas, they win. So Krishna becomes small. Rudantam muhur netra yukmam rijantam karamboja yukmena satanka netram. It's also another feat. Krishna becomes less than his devotees. Rudanta means crying. The Supreme Lord, the Vibhu, the Asvaya, the source of all Asvayas, he is crying. Rudantam. Muhur netra. Muhu means again and again he's crying. Netra yukmam. His 2 eyes. Netra yukmam. Yukmam means 2. Netra yukmam mrijantam. He's rubbing his eyes with his kara amboja. With his 2 hands, lotus hands. He's rubbing his 2 lotus eyes. It's nicely described. 2 lotus hands rubbing his 2 lotus eyes. Again and again, muhu. Sata anka. Sa atanka. Sa atanka means fearful. Fearful what? Sa atanka netram. His eyes are fearful. What? The Lord is fearful. He's rubbing his eyes, full of tears. And swasa. Kampa. Swasa means, Mahendra, you remember? Kampa means shaking. Swasa means heavy breathing. So the Lord is crying, rubbing, shaking, in fear of Mother Yasoda. So that is the wonder of, first of all, making Krishna big by hearing about him, making him huge so that we surrender. And then when we engage in devotional service, selflessly, not accepting rewards, then what happens? Krishna shrinks, comes to our level, sometimes even becomes inferior. He allows you to cheat him. Krishna, please close your eyes. I will put a nice mangal sweet, like the picture here. Oh, Krishna thinks he's offering me a mangal sweet. And then they put a flower in his mouth, and then he's like, oh, this is not mangal sweet. All the gopas are laughing and joking, and they start wrestling, and they feed him. And that's amazing. And that's also bewildering for those who are in Asvaya mood. Those who see the Lord as the Supreme Lord, like Lord Brahma, Lord Indra. When they saw all these things, how Krishna makes himself smaller than his devotees, they became bewildered and they started to challenge Krishna. So conclusion of this purport today is, yes, we are Antarang, we are Tatashta Shakti, we are split personalities, we should admit, yes, I'm in the middle of two energies. Am I going to choose for Krishna's internal energy? Am I going to choose for his external energy? Do I want to live in harmony or in competition? Make this choice consciously. Mayeva mana adatsva, mayi buddham nivesaya. Just fix your mind upon me, use your intelligence in me, and you will live in me, Krishna says. So is that your choice? You want that? Fix your mind upon him, your intelligence in him, and then you will live with him. Is that what we want? Or do we want to turn our face from Krishna and go to the external energy and be, thrown around by the mode of ignorance, passion, goodness, competing with God, competing with other living entities? So the choice is quite obvious, no? So as a conclusion, as His Holiness Bhakti Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj says, he says, all those who are in this room, you are all devotees, and you will never not be a devotee anymore. Why? Because you know too much. As he said, you can never leave the mafia because you know too much. And then he said, that are very nice, it still resounds in me. He says, so you will be in a devotee forever, because you know too much. Now you have two choices. You can either be a happy devotee, or you can be a miserable devotee. But you will always be a devotee. So if we hear, and that is a nice verse to conclude, the verse after the Paribhash verse of the Bhagavatam, Ete Cham Sakala Pumsam, where Krishna is the source of all incarnations, then the verse after that is very nice. It says, Janma Guyam Bhagavato Ya Etat Prayato Naraha Sayam Pratar Grinan Bhaktya Dukkha Gramat Vimuchyate. This verse says that if you carefully hear about Krishna's pastimes in the morning and in the evening. So if you carefully, devotionally hear about Krishna's pastimes in the morning and in the evening, morning program, evening program, dukkha gramat vimuchyate. All miseries will disappear from your life. So if you want to be a happy devotee, then you have to hear morning and evening about Krishna. And then during the day you engage in other devotional services. And what should you do if you want to be a miserable devotee? You should not hear in the morning and in the evening. Stop hearing, just hang around. Hang around in the ISKCON movement. Yeah. Make sure you get some prasadam and do a little bit of just enough service so that they don't kick you out. This is not the way to be a happy devotee. Happy devotee means strong hearing, selfless service, make Krishna big, and by Krishna's mercy he becomes small and we have a wonderful relationship with him in rasa. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments? Mahendra Prabhu, you want to comment? Correct me. We take a few minutes for comments and questions, and then for those who want already to go for service, it's 9 o'clock, so please feel free. For those, it's 9, so everyone who leaves the room can take a sweet. I will put it somewhere. Yes, Prabhu.
I was just thinking, Prabhupada in the purport said that what we have here in the material nature is a reflection, a twisted, a perverted reflection of what's in Vaikuntha. Because you were making such a stark distinction, there is no fear, there's no competition, this is what we experience here, but we actually see a lot of fear, especially in Vrindavana. Even Goloka Vrindavana, there's fear of Kamsa, and anxiety about Krishna and his protection, etc. And there is competition, and quite strong competition, and jealousy. And it's difficult to actually, it's impossible to understand with a material contaminated mind. That's why we are advised, as you clearly explained, that we first understand who Krishna is by hearing about his position of the source of everything, etc. And then the heart becomes purified, and then we can have a glimpse of what means this in the spiritual relationship, that this fear and all these things which here are so negative, lust, anger, jealousy, etc., they're so blissful.
Yes.
But otherwise it's just, and that's why we're not advised to hear, unless there is some basic purification, not advised to hear the intimate pastimes, because we'll misconstrue, we'll think, well, that's exactly what we have here, and that's not what we want, right?
Yes.
Like Sanatana Goswami describes in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that Krishna is taking prasad, and the gopis cooked Srimati Radharani some special sweet Manohar Ladu, and he takes it with 2 fingers and tastes it and makes a face which is like he's tasting the bitterest of bitter things. And then everybody is alarmed. Madhya Yashoda, what is happening? How can Radharani cook something like that? And Nanda Maharaj also. And then Sanatana Goswami mentions the servants or friends of Srimati Radharani. They feel anxious. Oh, what happened? What could be the reason? And the competition, they feel quite happy. That's what he says. So when we hear such descriptions, it could be very puzzling. But I think it's, I just wanted to mention how nicely you explained that we have to hear and hear. But my question was, you said that it's not what our senses and mind wants, especially when we're overwhelmed by the lower modes. So you kind of said that's the medicine, we just have to hear about the Aishwarya position, make Krishna big. But this is the last thing which the mind wants to do, to hear about the supreme position of the Lord. So what do you do then?
Personally, I have the practical example that I have in my life. I explained it already a few times, that I was really an active atheist. And somehow or other, by the mercy of devotees, you get a glimpse of Shraddha, a glimpse of faith that there might be something beyond my own intellectual capacity. And then I got to Bhagavad Gita, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that at least theoretically you have to accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, otherwise the Bhagavad Gita makes no sense. Anyone can speak something, but if you don't accept him to be authority. So that was the mercy of Prabhupada, that he says it's very safe, at least theoretically, accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and then start hearing and see how he proves it, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Like when Arjuna was hearing about the opulences of the Lord, 80 opulences Krishna is mentioning. He says, I will just give a brief summary of some of my opulences, but if you count them, it's like 80 opulences that Krishna mentions in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then he actually reduces those 80 to very insignificant. He says, just, it's one portion of my portion pervades the whole material existence. So what's the use of trying to understand the opulence in the material world? And then Arjuna in the next chapter, he says, now you prove it. I mean, he said it, if you think I'm qualified and if you are merciful, then you can show it that you have all these opulences. And he showed the universal form. So when I was reading all those things, then the awe and reverence for Krishna started to manifest. And I felt myself becoming smaller. But the nice thing is that within that tattva, there is also rasa. So it's not that we first have to go through all the bitterness of tattva and sambandha and then finally we can taste something. No, Arjuna himself was saying that hearing more and more about your opulences, I want to hear it again and again. Therefore, Vishtarein Atmano Yogam Vibhutim Cha Janardana. Bhuya Kataya Triptirhi Srinvato Nasti Memritam. I'm never tired of hearing about the detailed descriptions of your opulences. Please go on, go on, go on, go on. So when I was reading those things, I also start to feel some enthusiasm. Especially when you meet the devotees afterwards, therefore sadhu sangha is so important. If you meet the devotees and you hear together, and devotees are very expert, when you come to the stage of sadhu sangha, within 1 hour you're also engaged in bhajana kriya. The devotee is very merciful. So it's the combination of hearing about the greatness of God with devotional service, and Krishna is there in the heart and he gives us this glimpse of taste. It's like a preliminary ruchi, some drops of it. And it's that combination of intellectual understanding of Krishna being the Supreme Lord with these drops of taste. That combination makes our spiritual life grow more and more and more. So it's actually our endeavor and then the reciprocation. Our endeavor and reciprocation. And sometimes Na tumam abhigyanati tattvenatas chavanti te. Sometimes we forget the supremacy of the Lord, and then we fall down, chavanti te. And then, while being in the bahiranga energy, we very quickly realize that this is not really a place for enjoyment. So Krishna starts to beat more, and actually the taste that we were having for certain things in the bahiranga energy are not anymore so tasty. So Krishna reduces that taste. And we come back to the devotees and we try again, and we fall down again, and at one point we are convinced that we should persevere. And then hopefully when we are in the stage of ruchi, the taste keeps us going. It's so wonderful to have Mangalarti, it's so wonderful to chant. So the taste takes over, and that brings us to attachment to Krishna personally. So yeah, it's a little bit one step, a little bit backwards, another step, getting some realizations both in the material energy and in the spiritual energy that makes us convinced more and more. So hopefully one day we will feel ecstasy and hair standing on hand, hearing about Krishna's greatness. Blessings, please, for that. Is that okay? Any other last comment, question? No? You want to have a sweet, right? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maybe there are not enough sweets for everyone. So those who didn't go on Rath Yatra, first, they can first come and have a nice sweet. Thank you all very much for staying till the end. Hare Krsna. Jagannath Prasadam. Jai Prasadam. Freely. Hare Krsna. Jagannath Mahaprasad ki jai. It's homemade German sweets offered to Lord Jagannath. Yeah. It's made with love and devotion. And offered with a lot of devotion. I know, but we have enough. So.